everyone, welcome to History on Trial. This is Dr. Tracey McCarthy, psychologist, attorney, and educator. We're going to be talking about the Akan and the psychology of identity. We've talked previously about the Akan people of West Africa, including their history of having a royal lineage. What we're going to talk about, however, is the Akan as a race of people and the name Akan serving as the marker of that race and how that race traces not only to Africa, but to Europe and America. And if this video appears on anything other than Dr. Tracey McCarthy, it is stolen and unauthorized. Let's get started. The history of the Akan usually starts with a discussion of the history of the Akan in Africa. And you can see with the Encyclopedia Britannica, there is a discussion related to the Akan, and it identifies the Akan as primarily living in Ghana, where they settled in successive waves between the 11th and 18th centuries. What's interesting about this is that this also coincides with the Norman invasion in Europe and the migration of those people from the east to the west. We're going to quickly look at the history of the Gold Coast of West Africa. This book is from 1893, and it looks at the history of a number of groups of people in West Africa on that Gold Coast, and this includes the Akan people. And one of the things that the book does is it traces some of the history of the Akan and the relationship between the Akan and other people. And for our purposes, one important notation in the book, among other notations that are also important, is the identity of a chief of the Akan being named Akum, and that's A-K-U-M. And so hold on to that because you're going to see the name of that chief again. Now, the Akan described their origins as coming from the east and in some instances coming from the north. And that is usually assumed to mean coming from the north of Africa and coming from the east of Africa or over in the Middle East region. However, there is an indication that prior to coming to the place in which the Akan settled on the West African coast, that they were in Europe. And so you see here that the Akan is actually an Anglo-Saxon surname with many spelling variations. And if you look to the bottom, you will see that spelling variation of Akum, A-K-U-M, as in that Akan chief that we previously discussed. And additional information reveals that in ancient Anglo-Saxon England, the ancestors of the Akan lived in Yorkshire. Now, this surname is associated with the parish of Akan, and it was located on the outskirts of the city of York. The surname Akan is also related to time going back to the Domesday or the Doomsday Book. Now, the name was perhaps obscured because the spelling of it was A-C-H-U-M and A-C-U-M and A-C-U-N, and these are all variations of Akan. What's really odd here is that the village was designated as a manor held by St. Peter. Now, it's unclear whether this is a discussion about Saint Peter as in Peter in the Bible or Saint Peter as in the Pope. And continuing on, you see that by 1222 the village was listed as Akum, which is consistent with that chief that is noted on the west coast of Africa. When trying to identify the history of a particular people, particularly when you're talking about an entire tribe or a race of people, it's helpful to trace the distribution of the surname. And so when you do a tracing of the distribution of the surname Akan, meaning the tribe of Akan and the race of Akan, what you come up with is this name is predominantly found in Turkey. It has its highest density in Turkey, and it has its highest prevalence in Turkey, with over 52,000 people bearing this surname. And here you can see a more expanded distribution. So you see that the majority of the people are in Turkey with this surname, and this is followed by Nigeria at 12,000. So you have almost 30,000 for Turkey and then 12,000 for Nigeria. And then it drops down significantly to 2,000 in Benin. And then you have Bangladesh and the Philippines and Thailand before you get to Ghana with only 556 people. What is particularly interesting is the transliteration of Akan, because you can see that the name Akan appears in a variety of languages. That means there is a presence of that name in those cultures. While there is much talk about European colonization of Africa, and you can see that the Akan were involved in the colonization of Africa early on, you can also see that the Akan participated in the colonization of America. And you see here many English families, tired of political and religious strife, left Britain for the new colonies in North America. Now, there is an interesting note about the timing of the relocation of the Akan to the Americas, and it does correlate with some of the Jacobite rebellion dynamics. To the surprise of many, the Akan were among the early settlers of the Americas. And you see here one John Akan landed in Boston, Massachusetts in 1712. Now, this dynamic might explain significantly why, when those individuals who were identified as African American or Black American or Brown American or Negro take DNA tests, that there is a direct relating back to individuals who are in Africa. One of the things that you have going on here when you look at groups such as the Akan, you have a racial tribal lineage going on here that is coming out of Europe and dispersing into both Africa and into the Americas. And clearly, if you tested individuals in Africa, you would also find that their DNA would trace back to individuals in the Americas. And this is largely because these are the same groups of people. And so if you remember that these surnames not only serve as lineage markers, these surnames that people have, these are tribal markers. They are also racial markers. Previously, race was determined by the surname, by the family name, by those clans. And so people have misconstrued race to be related to phenotype. And so it has confused a number of things. And so if you just remember that historically your race has been tied to your surname and that you are identified racially by your surname, it makes it a lot easier to keep up with who you are and who all of your cousins are. Remember, knowledge is power. Take care. See you soon.